we're back at the Hashira Half Hour. We are ready to go. It's episode 6, the strongest of the Demon Slayer Corps. Are they the strongest because he's Gyome, or is he Gyome because he's the strongest? I think we'll find out in this episode. But Hannah's on vacation right now, so we got Tom with us today.
Hello.
Hello. It is Tom.
And Nika.
And Nika. We've got little sun god Nika up here for the first time this week, the newest addition to the family. And hopefully she's going to be very, very good for this podcast recording. She is
Doubt.
I kind of doubt it too, but we will see. She's a 14-week-old chug. She's a Chihuahua pug. And we love her. And she'd win.
She certainly would win any battle of cuteness. I already love her. I've known her for less than an hour, so you guys will probably get to see her in more Tic Tacs and whatnot. So, well, let's dive into the episode. So we start pretty quickly. Gyome is just towering over both of them, and I mean the way I'd want Gyome towering over me. Let's be real. But first off, we see Zenitsu terrified, per usual, being the realist, and he's terrified by this waterfall training and in the winter. I already get cold in the Arizona winter. How would you guys do in this situation?
I'm really bad with like cold water specifically. I definitely just put my feet in the water at the pool, and then I just work up the courage over like an hour to jump in.
Oh, all right.
And then just get it over with.
I would immediately pass away. I have filmed a couple scenes in water before, and I don't know why there's like this obsession with in the film industry with like shooting underwater scenes in the middle of winter in like a non-heated pool, and maybe it's because we're in Arizona, but it's really uncomfortable. And you might also note that they are in their not full clothes, they're not wearing any shirts, but like they're in their full like shoes and pants and stuff, which is heavy also when they get wet. So heavy, cold, wet. I can't blame them for looking for those warm rocks like lizards.
Right. Not just any sort of rocks, boulders, not just rocks.
It's not just a boulder.
It's a rock. And it's a nice boulder as well, for sure. Warm boulder. So I think that's really cool that they get to kind of lay on these rocks for a little bit, take a break, get to bake in the sun. And also, just a shout out to Emily's favorite panel of the manga, and I'd like to assume it's also Tom's, right?
Yeah, the waterboarding.
Yeah.
It's definitely up there, and I have to say, I do think that, I don't want to be a hater, but I do think this might have been a little bit funnier in the manga for me.
I also thought it was funnier in the manga.
It's just like this one panel down here. It's like, wait. Inosuke? They're like, oh no, get him out of there.
I think it's just like in a manga, it's like reads better as like a smash cut.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know. I also felt like it was funnier in the manga.
But
I
it was
also
so
felt
funny.
like it was more clear in the manga that it was like that he was waterboarded, not just unconscious.
Yes.
You know?
I think that's true. I will say, it's my top manga panels are like, there's 2 of them. This was one of them. The other one, though, was really funny again in the anime, and it was in the Swordsmith Village arc at the beginning when Tanjiro's in the hospital. Again, he's like, they're like, oh, Inosuke didn't make it. He's like, then I must be hallucinating him on the ceiling.
It's like, oh, you're so good for seeing me up here. It's like, well, you are on the roof in front of me.
His little dumb face. He's like, his big pig eyes.
Is that a shoe?
Oh, no shoe. No. No shoe.
We'll put that down there for now.
Right. All right. Well, so like we've said, Tanjiro is a pretty good big brother figure, and he's really good at being, there for other people, right? So with that being said, we actually end up seeing Tanjiro cooking for most of them, and actually at one point they end up calling him Mother in the episode, which I think is really interesting.
He's graduated from brother to mother.
Brother from another mother.
Really stepping up the ranks.
He's mothering this Father's Day. We love that for him. And he's just such a sweet little boy. Like, he doesn't even question it, and he immediately knows that they are.
From there, Inosuke says that Gyome is the strongest, right, of all of them. And Tanjiro agrees, but the NPCs really have some opinions about kind of where they stand in comparison to the Kamaboko squad and Gyome.
Yeah, Tanjiro and Zenitsu and Inosuke. Well, Zenitsu, forget him. He's like off, like lounging in his own self-pity at this point.
Yeah.
But Inosuke's like, oh yeah, and by the way, and also, side note, it's always so funny to me anytime that the mask comes off, because like we know he's pretty, but again, just hearing that crazy voice come out of this like beautiful man is so insane. And he's like, that guy's the strongest, I can tell. And he's talking about Gyome. Tanjiro's like, oh, is that what it is? He's like, I did notice that he smells different. And I'm like, could you not tell just by looking at him?
He's like the stonkiest, largest man.
He's huge. He's enormous. And it's just really funny seeing them interact. And then the NPCs, who are still a cut above what any of us would be able to do IRL, they're like, these guys are actually clinically insane. They're like, these guys are on a different level, and I think we're just gonna give up at this point.
It is good in this arc to see like how much stronger they are than everybody else, though, because we also saw kind of where they've come from with Tanjiro and his training arc and like how far he's come. It's cool to see like that arc.
Yeah, for sure.
How much stronger they've gotten.
Yeah, and honestly, looking at it from like that lens of like growth and stuff, like remember back in episode 1 where Tanjiro didn't even know that demons existed, and now he's here as like one of the top prospects of demon slaying. So it's kind of cool to watch that. Transitioning over to a different side of the episode, though, we get Nakime and Muzan, who Nakime has now been promoted. Congratulations on your professional development, ma'am. Now number 4, and finally named in the anime as well. But she said that she's found 60% of the demon slayers, but not Nezuko or Ubuyashiki. Now, again, most of this is actually anime original content. So how do you guys feel about this?
I think it's nice to know like what, because I think in the manga you don't see what they're like, what Muzan's up to. He just kind of shows up. So I think it's a really good addition. They've done that a lot through the anime, it's just like adding little fillers. But everything that they've added hasn't felt like a side quest. It's felt like it's contributing to the story a little bit. So that's nice.
I might be mistaken, so don't come for me in the chat. But I think everything that we'd seen with this character so far was addition. These couple scenes actually are in the manga. So we've got like, but I think this might have been the first time that we were seeing in the manga the use of like these eyeballs and like the thought of like Muzan literally has eyes everywhere.
So they just added more context to it.
Yeah, and it's just these 2 pages. So,
yeah, it's like easy to miss if you like don't read the manga pretty like thoroughly that like these things happen.
Yeah, but he does note that he's looking for Nezuko and Ubuyashiki, and it's interesting because they are also definitely in 2 different places. So he's trying to move these eyes everywhere, Nakime's eyes, to try to find them. He's like, okay, check this corner of the map instead, since we found about 60%. We only have 40% left to check, is to me what it's insinuating. But, and I think that they've mentioned in passing before too that the reason that the Demon Slayer Corps headquarters has never been attacked is because they can't find it. Kind of like the Swordsmith Village.
Yeah.
So, obviously that's where Ubuyashiki's home is as well, and where we know that he presently is and is nearby, where this Hashira training is taking place.
Yeah. And I just like kind of seeing more of Nakime. I think she's a really cool character. I think that it's nice to see her get more of the spotlight. She is a kind of not my favorite demon, but she is just a demon that I enjoy, and character design I enjoy, so I think that's really cool. But unfortunately, we transitioned back to our demon slayers, and
unfortunately,
I mean, they're not doing too hot in Gyome's realm. So with that being said, I'm going to quote Emily on this one, but some of the demon slayers have decided to promote themselves to customer and switch to some support roles. Do you think you could even handle a support role?
Probably not, but I could definitely organize a spreadsheet for them. This was like really real of them though, and you could tell that they were kind of like disheartened, I think, in this conversation. They're like, we're just never gonna even be close to your level, so we're gonna go and be ready to offer that support that you're needing, like as you are fighting Muzan. And Tanjiro's response was really heartfelt and nice too. You know, he's like, thank you, we're only gonna be able to get it done because of support from people like you, and like you're just as much a part of the fight as we are. And that really cheered up their spirits.
Yeah, he's really good at that.
He's really good at saying nice things when he doesn't think about what he's saying. He thinks too hard about it, then he's like, let's have an eating contest.
So random, yeah.
Literally. Only 2 brain cells, one of them for emotional support, one of them is emotional damage.
Emotional damage.
Emotional. Alright, yeah, we see more of Tanjiro eating and more of Tanjiro cooking. Honestly, anime food has never looked so good, has it?
I really want those miso rice cakes.
Right?
Those look so good.
Oh.
He was brushing the little sauce on it, the miso, those looked delicious.
Inosuke's face is pretty much sums up how I was feeling about it. He's just like, ready.
I'm ready. He wouldn't have a fork and a knife. I don't know what I'm doing.
No, he's like eating fish bones.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, they're crunchy. Are you gonna eat that?
And the NPC's like, are you gonna be alright? You've eaten like 10 of those. It's like, I know. My favorite meme of the week, this one will push us to the mature rating on Spotify. But Inosuke's literally the meme this week that's like, my stomach's writing checks that my asshole can't cash.
Oh no! Oh, that's funny. I was gonna say me so hungry, but not after hearing that one. All right. But it is kind of nice because after that, right, we move into Tanjiro and Genya. So we haven't seen Genya since the fight between him and Sanemi. But Genya shows up and thanks him for protecting him against Sanemi, and he offers some advice for pushing the rock using a repetitive motion or emotional recall. Talk to me about kind of some of the memories that you see here and kind of what they mean.
I also don't think that in like season 1 he would have ever offered advice to anybody. He barely wanted to talk to anybody. So like his character arc's also come a long way. I think I said it as we were watching it. I was like, oh, he's so nice now.
Yeah.
Like he was, even just like last season, he was such a little dick. But now he's definitely come a long way. So he has kinder eyes.
Season 1, he was like literally throwing those 2 girls around at final selection. He's like, I want my sword. When am I getting my sword? And
when am I getting my gun? Not that he said that, but I think probably somewhere off screen he was like, I use guns now.
He's like, 36, but last year I had 37.
What is that from?
From Harry Potter. With the presents at the beginning of the first one.
Oh, yeah.
That was Genya, and he's grown up a lot, and he could have like very easily been embarrassed by Tanjiro stepping in for him in the last episode, like, because Sanemi's reaction was like, don't get yourself involved, like this is not your conversation or your family. And based on how Genya had been, it definitely could have gone a similar way, where it's like, I don't need your help, like get your really, really well-trained nose out of my business. But instead he's like starting to recognize, I think, what Tanjiro's about after fighting with him in the Swordsmith Village, and acknowledges it and appreciates it because he's not getting it from his actual big brother right now. So it's sweet to see, and he has become kinder and more gentle. But it is like not lost on me that he's the one trying to teach Tanjiro about emotional recall.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's an interesting concept for being able to push this massive boulder. It's like, when I first saw or like read the repetitive motion, I was almost imagining like when Rengoku had taught Tanjiro about the breathing forms, and it's like you have to make sure it's like activating all of your cells. I'm like, that kind of makes sense to me from like an athletic POV, like you're really activating. So then I was imagining almost just like little bursts of that, like
yeah, same.
And that's like, but that's not exactly what it is. It's more of the emotional recall, which is an acting technique, by the way.
Yeah. Do you think it's also a translation
thing? It might be. It might
It's
be,
like,
but what they showed was emotional recall, though.
Yeah.
In my opinion. And so, like, at least in acting, emotional recall is calling upon those memories. Usually this helps people to be able to cry on command or like react well on command and have it be convincing. And it's like you're tapping into things that you've already experienced as a human. So it's not method acting where you become the character. Rather, it's like just for a brief burst, which is why it might be called this repetitive motion. So it's like these brief bursts of memories. And obviously Genya and Tanjiro both have a lot to work with.
Yeah. And of course they had to throw Rengoku in there this episode too.
Of course, but we'll get to that.
And then and then I don't know why, but this is totally random. I had a dream about method acting last night.
Did you?
And you guys were there.
Interesting.
You guys were there talking about method acting.
Of course.
The
actors.
Acting.
But so he starts to make progress.
Wait, what were we doing in your dream? Don't just skip over that. What were we doing? We were just talking about it?
Yeah, we were just talking
about it?
We were literally like sitting on a couch talking about how, what's her name from the AMC preview? Nicole Kidman.
It's definitely Pride Month.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
In a place like this, even heartbreak feels good.
What?
Isn't that what she says? Something like that?
Oh, heartbreak.
Heartbreak.
Hotbreak.
Hot.
How do you say that in an Australian accent?
Is she Australian?
Yeah, I think so. Isn't she Australian?
Hey,
Man,
hey
fuck if I know.
Siri. Oh, it doesn't recognize my voice.
I don't
I
think
think
you have
to press
Siri.
it.
Oh.
Let's see.
Our Google's unplugged.
Oh, that is the audio. Hey Siri, where is Nicole Kidman from? Honolulu, place of birth.
Oh.
She definitely has like some kind of distinct accent though.
Mm-hmm.
She's like,
She's still listening.
in a place like this, even heartbreak feels good. that might not. Maybe I'm not remembering that
You sound
correctly.
like your mom. You're
That's
kind of
probably
doing
right.
the New York accent a little bit.
Nicole Kidman was from Boston.
Perfect. All right. Well, he's starting to make progress with the boulder, but only to be cut short by calling him dinner and calling him mom. In which Genya starts to help out, and kind of alluding to what Tom was saying, we see a lot here because they start to talk more about that emotional recall, and they start to, as they're making dinner together.
Yeah. First of all, this is really funny because at this point, all of the Demon Slayer NPCs that are there are straight up just calling Tanjiro mom, and it's like, I don't think it's even a joke anymore. And he's just like responding to it like, oh, okay, dinner will be ready in a few minutes. He's just such a sweet boy, and it's fun to see him doing like kind of homely things like that. Like, he's the little Demon Slayer homemaker and cooking dinner for everybody, and everyone's like, oh, it's so good. Really cute.
He probably really enjoys it too, because he said that it was bringing back memories of home.
That's true.
Too, so.
Yeah, he was the oldest, so he was the one that was always helping his mama out, making rice cakes and things like that. So, very sweet. And I'm glad that he and Genya are able to like have a couple more moments together. And it's fun that Genya's the one that's like, I'm gonna roll up my sleeves and like help you, because again, it's like not what we would have expected from this character when we were first introduced. He's had a massive arc. But as they're talking about this emotional recall, like Tanjiro's face does fall a little bit, and of course it does, because almost everything he's got to recall is really sad. You know, he's experienced massive loss, and even though Genya has as well, he's pretty receptive and like sensitive to it, and is like, hey, we don't have to talk about this. If it's making you upset, that's not what I meant to do.
Yeah. And so, even though he's really upset, he is, not discouraged at that point, right? Like, even though he's got a lot to think about and a lot to mull over, he does go back out to the boulder super early in the morning. Like, before the sun has even risen, he's out there and starts to really put this into practice. And that's when he, like, calls upon his family being lost in the Rengoku scene. So, tell me about how that made you feel in the moment.
Anytime they say set your heart ablaze, I get fucking pumped up. Like, it's great. They got like the sun rising and it's got the music going, and homies are gassing him up. I love when anime just hypes up the main character. He gets that a lot in the show, which is awesome. But it's always really good. And like they got like, do they play the Rengoku theme too underneath it? Yeah, that shit gets me going. I don't know. I love that.
We all know how I feel. Rengoku, it's my favorite character, if you didn't know. This is where I'd put my favorite character if I had one. If I still had him. But every single time he comes up, I'm going to say this because it's true every time, he is so important to the rest of the show. Even though...
Nika disagrees.
She's like, set your heart ablaze. It's okay, Nika. Calm down. You done?
She's done.
Okay. Every time I see Rengoku, I'm going to say this because it's true every single time. He is so important to everything that happens in the rest of the show and in the rest of the story. Even though he did not have a ton of screen time, he made one of the largest impacts, and it keeps coming back to remind us. Tanjiro's literally carrying his hilt with him at all times at this point, and this concept of setting your heart.
Hey.
Nika, calm down. Nika, girl.
Okay.
And this concept of setting your heart ablaze really applies to like every situation that Tanjiro has been in, and there's a reason that those words keep coming back to him. Incredibly important character, dearly missed by everybody in the show, and part of, to me, I think it's like a huge indicator of how important this character was to Tanjiro, because first he remembers his family, which is his entire reason for being in the place that he is at all, and the fact that Rengoku is like immediately the second emotional memory that he's recalling is huge.
Yeah. He really only knew him for like a day, not even a full day. It's like the Twitter poll where it's like screen time and then level of importance. He's a pretty high contender on that list, I think.
Yep.
Sick.
And the guy from One Piece that says, "Where's your treasure?" That just starts everything. The random, the random guy in the middle of the crowd.
The guy who fishes Luffy's barrel out of the ocean. Screen time versus impact.
Wow, I would have died without you. Oof, that's funny.
It's like One Piece. One Piece if he's never out of the barrel.
Oh man, we'd never have Little Chopper.
Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer if they gave Genya a gun. Wait.
Oh wait, he did. Alright, well, as he's doing this training rate and as he's working with these emotional recalls, we start to see him gain control of that mark. And tell me what you guys thought about Inosuke and Zenitsu's reactions, because they were certainly something.
I mean, this was like really funny. They're coming. It's like they're already awake early. The sun isn't even up, so we've got to imagine it's probably like 4 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And they're like, man, this motherfucker is already out here. He's already working on stuff. And Zenitsu's like, I'm too tired for this. And Inosuke's like, I'm not gonna let him beat me. But then they also just don't stop watching, because at this point Tanjiro's been working on it for who knows how long, and as our main character always does, he is able to move that nice boulder a couple meters. And then their reactions are also like totally hyping him up, like Tom was saying, like, oh my god, you did it. And even Inosuke is like, you beat me to it, but that was cool.
I love the kind of friendly competition between the three of them. They kind of like push each other to the limits.
Yeah.
They're always doing that for each other, which is nice. Like, oh, you did it. Now I gotta do it, I guess. It's like, oh, it is possible. Okay, I guess I'll go push the boulder again.
Yeah, and I wish we could have gotten to see Zenitsu actually pushing the boulder if he ever does. I don't know if he does, but it would just be nice to see that. Alas, all I imagine is him like actively trying to push the boulder.
Is it in
that boulder? I don't think so.
Not on screen, at least.
This is all Tanjiro. Oh, there's Inosuke trying. Here's Zenitsu. He goes, Inosuke moved the boulder too. This sucks. Now it's only me. This sucks. He's
Perfect.
hiding. Oh, man.
I do want to call out the one scene really quickly that Gyome was just like staring at them behind the tree, but like
Staring?
he's blind, so it doesn't work. But it's funny. But the episode ends with us panning back to Muzan and Nakime, and he's talking about what is coming next for them. So, what did you guys think of this scene?
This one's interesting, and from what I can see so far, I'd have to revisit, but I think that this was anime original to pan back to this. It's not part of the 2 pages that we had of Muzan and Nakime. And he is sitting here thinking, what is Uba Yoshiki thinking? What does he even look like? Because he doesn't know at this point. And obviously Uba Yoshiki, even in the state that he's in, which we know is quite ill at this point and unable to even appear before the Hashira anymore, is the heartbeat of the Demon Slayer Corps organization. He is like the mastermind behind whatever this plan is going to be, and we know that something's coming. We're all training for a reason. Muzan is looking for those 2 specifically, and something's gonna happen soon, is the feeling that I got from this scene.
Yeah. Only 2 episodes left, so something has to happen, right?
Exactly. Well, that's everything that we have, because it was a pretty quick episode, so let's talk about kind of what was adapted from the manga before we go into favorite moments.
Yeah.
So, looking at it, it looks like it was really closer to the manga than we've been this season, because we start with the chapter opening, chapter 134, repetitive action. So this is the introduction of the training. This is Inosuke getting waterboarded. This is them eating the fish and Inosuke munching on the bones. Tanjiro lifting logs pretty quickly, and then eventually getting to the boulder. Now, we skip pretty quickly from the logs to the boulder, so they are still giving us some anime original content, because it's from one panel that they're on the logs, and then the next panel is immediately the boulder. So there's not much time between them. And then, let's see. We skip that. 6 days later, the boulder hasn't moved. All right. And then, oh yeah, Genya shows up. Is your mark getting any darker? And then Nakime. And then chapter 135, Himejime Hell.
I'll say.
Yeah, the beginning of chapter 135 is when Tanjiro actually starts to push the boulder, get control of his mark. And then we see Zenitsu and Inosuke react. And that's kind of where the episode ends, is in the middle of chapter 135, because then we see kind of what's alluded to in next week's episode. So, just 1.5 chapters about.
Still more than some of the pacing we've had in some of the previous episodes this season, so it's nice to see the pace moving right along. And we got an announcement this morning that the next 2 episodes are going to be long. We've got 2 episodes left this season, and they hinted that next episode will be about 40 minutes in length, which is exciting, episode 7. And then they're saying that episode 8, the season finale, is going to be about an hour of runtime. What do you guys think about that announcement as manga readers, without spoiling?
They're probably going to add things.
Yeah.
That's pretty long. There's not a whole lot left, canonically.
Of the Hashira training.
Yeah.
So,
Before we start to move into what comes next.
So the last episode is probably going to be, they're probably going to add some stuff, and there's going to be probably a big cliffhanger.
yeah, there's no way there's not going to be a bunch of anime original content coming up this next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Which I'm always excited for.
This is a show that does it really, really well.
Yeah.
We've said that.
The manga moves pretty quick, and it's kind of short, and the beats are really fast, so I think that everything that they've added I've been really happy with.
Mm-hmm.
So
same, and it flows very seamlessly, so it does feel like Gotoge is probably involved.
yeah.
But we're due for some more. one last thing we didn't talk about fully yet is the little Taisha wear a secret. Mm-hmm. That was kind of fun.
He's like looking the wrong way.
Yeah. he's blind. They're like, oh, no, turn this way.
Can he hear Tanjiro behind him, though? Like,
he's just being a goofball.
What's the man's doing?
He's just being silly. And they're talking about how he cries so much. And I'm like, same, girl.
As Taylor Swift once said, I cry a lot, but I am so productive. It's an art.
Or as Bryan said last week, my man blind, my man beefy, my man cry. The three things I like. We love it.
Oh, God. Perfect. Well, from here, let's go ahead and go into our favorite moments. I'm going to start with mine, then I'll give Hannah's, and then we'll go with you two. My favorite moment was Genya asking if his mark had gotten any darker. I thought that was really interesting to see that throughout all this training there's some tangible result, and that like the more like stronger he gets, the stronger the people around him get. So I feel like that was kind of the sentiment behind that. So that was really cool. Favorite moment was Hanae-san's voice acting, because he did have such great range this episode, from going to like low grunties, the Nenbutsu chants, to the motherly voice acting. Like there was just such range in this specific episode. It's very interesting to listen to.
I actually was listening to his voice acting this episode for I think the first time, and it was actually when he was breathing before pushing the rock. I was like, oh, that like sharp inhale is actually like, it sounds refreshing the way that his voice acting is. I don't know if that's weird, but he has like a very specific way of doing the, like I can't even do it, but it sounds like he's doing an actual breathing technique, which I don't know. I for some reason this episode I paid attention to that.
Yeah.
Is that your favorite moment?
No, that is not my favorite moment. So my favorite moment from the manga was in this episode, which is the waterboarding scene. But actually wasn't my favorite moment in the episode. But it does show that like I do prefer that manga moment. But in this episode, it was the Set Your Heart Ablaze moment, of course. It's just like the culmination of everything in the episode, all the themes kind of tying together into one.
Did you like moment. The fire going through him, like each part of his body?
That was really cool. Yeah, and then I also like, this is like a second favorite moment, but when his sandal breaks, it just reminded me of like the Sandy Yalls from One Piece. I was like, that wouldn't happen to Luffy's sandals, let me tell you. Those things are built so different. But yeah, favorite moment's definitely like that whole section.
Both good. Both good. Also honorary mention to the waterboarding scene, so funny. And actually, if we're going to talk about like a favorite funny moment, I loved Zenitsu's like instant bolting to the rock.
Oh yeah.
Like a lizard. They're like, it's warm. He's like, warm, you say? He's like gone, and he's like, I never knew rocks would be this nice. I'm like, your head is a rock, my guy. It's full of them. We love them. Actual favorite moment, obviously, like Rengoku's always gonna get my heart too, but I think what was really the most special to me about this episode was something that was full of mystery when I was reading the manga, and because I've read the manga, sometimes that mystery like evades me a little bit, knowing what's gonna, just like knowing what's coming next. It's like sometimes you wish you could experience something again for the first time, and I kind of got that feeling again today when it's like, what's happening with the mark? Like, this is like one of the most important things. They're all like going through this training to try to awaken their marks.
Yeah.
Tanjiro is one of the only people who has awakened it, and now he's one of the first that's showing that he can like control it to an extent. We're seeing the scar on his forehead flex. Genya's asking him like, has it gotten darker? And it's like a good amount of the conversation. Like they're even saying like, if Gyomei's the strongest, like where's his mark? And we don't know too much about that just yet, but that is a good point. If Gyomei is the strongest, why is Tanjiro the one who's showing it the most frequently and with the most amount of control? So that sense of like mystery into like, what even is this mark and what does it mean and who's gonna have them was something that I felt like I was experiencing again for the first time.
We do see Gyomei trying in the episode as he's like pushing the boulder behind them.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Why else would he be doing that if not to try to get his mark too?
And also roasting himself in the fire.
Yeah. which we didn't get to see all the NPCs doing, probably for good reason. They'd probably all die.
No, he said that he cut it on purpose.
Yeah.
He's like it was going to be 4 things. But instead we will do all of the other elements instead.
It's like, I decided not to murder all of you. just torture you instead. So.
Jesus. Well, what an episode that was. Do you guys have anything else you want to call out before we close it?
I don't think so.
No, I'm excited for next week's. We saw that the title is Stone Hashira Gyome Himejima, and manga readers who know. And to me, that makes sense for an episode that we now know is going to be about 40 minutes long.
Yeah.
And we certainly have our hypotheses to what might be in episode 8 as well. But we will just have to wait and see. We're getting close. I think that's it for today.
All right. Well, with that being said, that's everything that we got. So please go ahead and give us a like and a follow here on Spotify. If you're listening on Spotify, if you're on Apple Podcasts, do the same. Give us a rating so that way we know you enjoy the podcast, or leave a comment on the episode so we can answer your comment or just respond to it in a future episode. You can also hit us on TikTok and Instagram at Hashira Half Hour, or on X at Hashira Half. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. Have a great rest of your day. And lastly, umai.
Umai.
Happy Father's Day to all the father figures out there, and Tanjiro, happy belated Mother's Day. Nasu. Umai.